Thank you for joining us for this montage of the Fall 2019 Indigenous Research Methods Symposium. During this two-day event that was held at both the Saley and Tuba City Diné College campus sites, students from the Anthropology 201 Ethnographic Methods and Psych 413 Indigenous Research Methods classes presented to community members on their semester-long projects. Sophomore students in the Ethnographic Methods class had the opportunity to read and analyze ethnographic projects about Navajo people from the time of contact through today as Navajo people conduct research on and with our own people. They also explored Diné College campus culture to learn more about the research methods of observation, participation, and focus groups. Ultimately, their projects allowed for them to learn more about their peers and their learning environment. Graduating Psychology and Diné Studies BA students engaged in the Psychology 413 Indigenous Research Methods class, and they learned how to conduct research as ceremony, using statistics by way of good numbers and reporting data through storytelling. They worked from traditional ontological belief systems to develop IRB-approved projects grounded with Indigenous agendas. Ultimately, they had the opportunity to assess their own commitment to their communities and understand how their research changes them as they brings them closer to the world around us. My name is Christine Ami, instructor for both of these classes, and it is my pleasure to present a recap of the IRB-approved projects at this symposium.
Right here we have a project, and the project is entitled Diné, a study from a student perspective of Diné governance. And so what I was really trying to get at was, does the student population, particularly Diné studies or Diné college students, have government influence within current Navajo Nation government structures, and how can we transform that thinking into traditional concepts of governance? So what we have here was, we had a good population of both sides, male and female, and so based off the results, statistically significant found that a female population and a male population had a better outcome and a more significance of understanding current Navajo Nation government structures. And so how do we get to the traditional side of it? So one of the big things that's in a lot of discussions is, should Navajo language be a requirement for leadership? And overwhelmingly, majority strongly agreed. And the second part of that was, does traditional leadership, should it be incorporated within the chapter house, the council, and the office of the president? Same thing. Majority of them overwhelmingly strongly agreed to this. So how do I correlate that with conversation with leaders, a male leader and a female leader? I had Shema Ambracrati and Shajeh, Dr. Joe Shirley Jr. given conversation, and they talked about it from their side, what they've experienced. And what she was talking about was, today's government structure isn't really benefiting us later down into potential governance. And Mr. Shirley says, in order for future leaders to be respected, they have to have prayer. In order to do that, they have to be respected. So how does that correlate with the participants and leaders? The results from this was, if we fail to recognize ourselves now, then we kind of failed of who we are as identity-wise. And so us as a younger generation just have to take the time to listen to them, to understand their perspective, and to gain a little bit of knowledge of traditional forms of governance into current government structures.
So the purpose of this research was to understand the disconnection Diné college students had on making kinship connections. Based on my observation here at Diné College, I see Diné clan introduction as a formality, and students, I felt like weren't really making that connection with each other. So that's what inspired my research here. And my research question are, what are the challenges for Diné college students that stem from not knowing, utilizing, or reinforcing Diné clan introduction? And I hypothesized that students, Diné clan introduction was not emphasized at home and by the community before students came here at Diné college. And I had two phases in my research. I had phase one, which consisted of 90 190 surveys. Altogether, I did 15 from each Diné College site, so there were 6 sites that I collected data from. And based on the survey responses, I filtered students into phase 2 to participate in phase 2, and I had 4 students, participants that participated in that phase, and that was a talking circle, which was about 70 minutes. And this is some of the information that I found. So we have those that did not know their clan origin stories. They didn't see the importance of kinship, or they weren't reinforcing it by teaching the younger generations. And those that did find that did know their clan origin stories were more likely to be able to establish kinship. They felt like it made them feel more Diné.
My abstract was based solely upon whether the Diné College students were able to define and know the actions of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Based solely on that, I used the chi-squared method in obtaining my data to abstract and know the difference between age and gender upon knowing how my collaborators were able to whether they strongly agreed, disagreed, and agreed along with in a Likert scale of how they felt, and also using my observations while they were taking these surveys as well. What I come to find out in my research was that mostly males were the most hesitant in taking my survey. Females were more open to taking my survey, as well as just being really open about it. But the thing I've noticed too in my research was that the Diné College students are able to define the terms nor even identify it. Because in reading each and every one of my surveys, I was able to see alike distinctions within their definitions of it coming off the web of Google, coming it off their phones, and they were unable to identify it at all. Mostly a lot of my participants were also victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment. And what I come to find out is that there were actually 3 cases here on campus, and never went anywhere here on the Diné College as far as policies and procedures in protecting your students.
شيء دنيس بسنتي شيء تورجي إن شلون تصوني بششين تصوني دشتشين تصوني دشنالج. I come from Indian Wells, Arizona, and I'm a BA student here at Diné College. But my research is family of hoarders receiving hoarding disorder on your nation. My hypothesis, which is how does hoarding disorder impact people's ability to maintain a culturally based home? So in a way, I'm looking at hoarding disorder in a cultural perspective. And with this research, in my introduction, I talk about how when I first encountered hoarding disorder, which is when I was 10 years old and when my grandma took me to this home, and I stepped out and I saw materialistic things all over, and that's when I started wondering why is this lady living like this? Why is this person living like this? And that's why I decided to do this research, but in a indigenous framework, because when I did the previous research, looking at it, a lot of it was in a Western perspective of studying rats, of studying just taking information and looking at it in a negative way. And that's what I didn't want to do. So my methodology is based on making good numbers and also creating rapport within the community that I was doing the research on. With one test, which is the p-value was 0.09 for gender and how they perceive jewelry as hoarding disorder based on a Likert scale. And with that, jewelry, males and females do not perceive it as hoarding disorder. And that's one of my findings in here, because one collaborator talked about how it's an importance to our culture.
My project this semester is Waiting on the First, a study of payday loan businesses and their impact on the Navajo Nation residents. So how I got into this project was when I was working at the Wells Fargo Bank, and I saw many customers who were impacted by payday loan businesses that were being deducted out from their accounts. So this led to my research question of how do Bordertown payday loan businesses affect the financial abilities of Navajo Nation residents? With the method would be the study of conducting two approaches of surveys as well as talking circle. And how I would be able to get those two methods done would be through my participants. Recruiting, that would be by going to four locations, which was Chinle, Saley, Gallup, and Woodrock, that I was able to conduct surveys there. And from there, I was able to collect 30 surveys, again from those said locations, as well as conduct talking circles, which I had 6 collaborators with. And I was able to, all of these data collecting were also through consent form. And once I collected all that data, I was able to get analyzed and get the final results that lead to my conclusions. So leading to the results, the most significant, there was a few significant findings, but the most one that stood out, mainly containing to Indigenous research, was the mean comparison of perception of regarding payday loan impacts. So what this graph shows is the negative impacts. For this one is those who, out of all the 30 participants for question 13 and 17, question 13 was regarding how, if they view on a Likert scale of strongly disagree to strongly agreeing, those participants, larger amount did not take out payday loans for question 13, which the question was, how do Navajo Nation, do they view payday loans impact their negative lifestyle? The Navajo Nation, their Navajo's lifestyle. So.
Navajo help understand the quality of diet through cognitive rehabilitation. What sparked my interest in this is 2 summers ago I had a class for decolonization, and we had to do a 7-day journal intake. And what I realized during that time was my eating habits, what was not good, what was good, what did I skip, that sort of thing. What I found in my quantitative data is nothing really correlated, because I did the correlation test. The only thing that I found significant was between sufficient lunchtime and selection process for their lunch. That was the only one that actually had it. What I want to do in the future is do a pre-test and a post-test for future testing. My 5 articles from previous research all relates to more of visual concepts and wording of how to curb your diet in a healthier way. Like I said, my results only had 1. I have 3 quotes, and the one that really sticks to me is the bottom one. And she said that in a way, it had motivated me to want to keep a food journal, to incorporate what I was actually eating in a day, and how can I improve it the next day. In a way, do like a food plan. Yeah, improve my choices, my nutrition. So I was able to hit my agenda, which is transforming someone's perception on healthy eating.
Thank you, Dr. Christine Wallace, and Tabahan Shona Kaya, was a chain like this, gives a chain on the national. Son and Shredo, but Diné College Gay Instra. Although Diné, not so Diné, Kodoya, artists of Africa. He did not come Diné, what is the relationship between rates of domestic violence and access to preventive services? Research question A in there. Ado then as kaige the baka ado sabahish nige yadi the street or sani ligi the sunet ted inigi to aid the aya at least ayan sa case of what aya not so see if you nani de hot aya baka do e at yan sa case do bespahasen la a ties ini do the nebis was on a tit or leave to know aya ya honisen la ti na do sanen ligi akut aya ti na so sinni ya hadla ko ado another no aya le kutat has aniki ishe hit the net a sanen lini do chinen lini ko wa I don't know na ide that not no aya do a chinen lini ki do sanen lini ted inigi le bestad la hawan has agot ya han shaitan nisi shelters jogotat aka then do egotat aka din not ani da jelini beshmas anda jelini ki a large not ani da jelini ki based on lini online on fund da do alta no but ya not sos ishtan ila ado wait the ande which has ande na antinigi an kiti den here or ich bin antinigi hajo be ich gespielt na oder so hat oder die sonne tel inigi aya hodon nicht jo hat also na ide kitta ich gecht hot bis lo aya hot in also sigi ich jan ila ko ado Zain go in ide kit ane sani dan inigi da Lady Kitty, I in bars and dish it out sun at Ted to show in I did kid nature a mahod now a Kidan de Hajine, there are the hot state to auto a hotel. She a Ted on she a Kahoji, Kodishi, the ABK Kane, Kajano, what are a hard Z. I could end in untin and Lenny dog with on hair or even Lenny J. Kodo a based 80 little bears. I don't know what are a Yahazi, ko a quite a shun at this day, out on the day on the hotel. Ihe or edon ki zarn linigi kodon kahamna linigi de bena antino das sto ave nasati kachot sto. Thank you.
So my research project is a relationship between healing and arts and crafts. This came about with me just very briefly, but came more of a bigger project when my grandmother was going through depression. She started going into dementia until we as a family started putting her womb together. And so then she started slowly doing other projects as well. So this kind of sparked this project. And with other projects, or with projects usually, you go research, previous research, and there's a list over here. They're not all indigenous. There's probably like one indigenous research about it, but they all talk about the healing effects of drawing, painting, and other arts and crafts that they find. So then, mixed methods research, citizen, started off with doing surveys in a small community called Shantou, Arizona. And with trying to find 25 participants was a little hard because there wasn't that many people who did arts and crafts or who didn't want to admit they did arts and crafts. And the conversations only had one participant, an elder lady from Shantou, who's well known around in the community. With her looking at the transcriptions and everything, she states that she has healing effects in all 4 areas. And she says if other people can get into this, maybe they can start healing themselves from the inside instead of being mad at the world, as she states. And so for the table, I did a correlation table. I concluded that it did support my hypothesis, but the limitation was it was in a small community and it was a small sample. So if we can expand this project, maybe we can get a more broader area of how this works with the whole Navajo reservation. My name is Josephine Curley. So I did my research on discipline within Navajo families and society today. With my research, I was wanting to gain an insight of how different forms of corrective behavior are expressed within Navajo families today, and to see what kind of ways and forms of how families communicate with their children, whether they're actively involved with their children's schoolwork, academics, games, and also how is that corrective behavior addressed if a child misbehaves, and also if traditional teachings are implemented with discipline in their homes. So based on my data, I did hear on disciplinary action discussed if a child misbehaves, and also the appropriate manners discussed within the home. So after getting all of my surveys back and doing my analysis, I have come to conclude that when I did my correlation coefficient, that parents proactively discussed appropriate and respectful behaviors with their children, and also discussed mannerism, and also has some disciplinary action when their child misbehaved, as far as discussing and talking what was right from wrong. And when I was doing my chi-square, my chi-square test indicated that parents are more likely to utilize traditional teachings in their home, regardless of whether they were single parent or if they came from a two-parent home.
Karina Bainbridge, and my presentation is on Diné traditional healing or Western medicine, one, both, or none. So my research question was, what preferences do Native American use in terms of traditional healing or Western healing approaches? And with that, I did a 20 individual participants that filled out my surveys. My survey consisted of 25 questions, and out of those individuals, I had 3 males and 17 females. And on my data for the chi-square, I had yes for 10 and then no for 10, which was 50% on both sides, which said yes, and then the other side said yes, so that was equal there. And then for my surveys, I did an independent sample t-test, which came out to, it was multiple questions that I picked out from the survey. So most of the individuals, the p-value was 0.0006 and lower. So it went under, it was significant with my null hypothesis, which was individuals were more confident believing in traditional healing, but individuals knowing who to seek traditional healers was not significant on that one. Okay. And then I used a Likert scale, and then most of the individuals that did the surveys were more on traditional healing side, and then the interview individual was more traditional as well, because she said when she was younger, most of or her grandma was more Christian than traditional, so her grandpa was traditional, and she said it was all confusing because she was being pulled both ways, and then she wasn't too sure until she got older, and now she's more traditional.
Okay, my research project, the title is Gone Hunting, a male perspective on Navajo masculinity in masculine society. What came up on this issue was the lack of hunting and hunting practices that link to Navajo male protection way teachings. And so the overall question on this was, how has masculine structure of Navajo hunting impacted the development of male role models in contemporary Navajo communities and families? So the hypothesis for the overall research is that there is a link between hunting that also going into male teachings in society. So when it comes to Navajo teaching, a lot of it is based on hunting. A lot of it is also built on the male ceremony of touch it, when the young male actually has a voice change and has a male puberty ceremony. The conversation I've had with Chanela Joy Thunder from Tuba City as an hour practitioner, as a hunter, as also as a participant that actually had the male puberty ceremony at a young age, really goes back to how his grandfather, how his uncles and his role models in his life that were male really pushed what a male is supposed to do, the responsibilities. How he described it was, in the beginning, a lot of the teachings he had were of male protection ceremonies. He did not experience how he describes the very nice and beautiful ceremonies such as Hajronja until he was almost an adult, until his high school years. So after the analysis, also not just how it affects societal issues such as single parenthood, as well as unemployment, as well as just overall issues that males have.
My project is on methamphetamines long-term effects on a family's holistic well-being. And the methods I used was a survey to 20 participants given here on the Tuba City Diné College campus. And then I did 4 demographic questions and 12 Likert scale questions. And from the 20 participants, I chose 2 participants who had the most experience with my research topic. And then I did a 3 30-minute series, conversation series with them. And this was one, and the other one was another female. And I both gathered a lot of experience, their experiences with their family members, which was a little bit more than I expected. One individual, you can just kind of see what she's been through with her child, which was suffering from a methamphetamine addiction. And then the other participant was a sibling. And then the data I gathered from the surveys and their conversations. The surveys, the data, the results, my hypothesis was the results were not statistically significant. Using the data gathered and entering it in a correlation test, and then the results were methamphetamine negatively impacts the holistic well-being of their family was incorrect according to the correlation test I did on the age of the participants versus if their family's Diné teachings and values were impacted by methamphetamine. There was no correlation, and my conclusion is maybe there's no correlation because everyone's teachings and values aren't the same. So, some can come from, Western or don't hold the same teachings as other people.
Effects on Diné holistic well-being as a result of gambling and the development of casinos on the Diné reservation. So, I have my abstract, my introduction, and all the components of my project here. So my introduction is basically the story that I have about how this gambling personally affected me. So I was having dinner at Twin Arrows, and I saw these older elderly gambling. So, in my mindset, I don't see grandparents doing things like that. So, that really affected me. And so I decided to do my project on that. So the title is there on my project. My hypothesis is that gambling has negative effects on Diné holistic well-being. The methods that I used were Indigenous Methods, research methods, which consisted of qualitative and quantitative methods. So I did a talking circle, and that consisted of 3 participants, and I transcribed the data, and then I coded that, and then the participant survey included 20 participants, and they answered 23 questions, and then that data was entered into an Excel worksheet, and data was analyzed and performed. Okay. I took the questions off the survey that I felt had to do with holistic well-being, which were like physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And so, you know, in all these areas, they felt that these areas were affected in some way by gambling. So that was something. And then in the talking circle, the participants mentioned negative impacts the gambling had. So these are the impacts here. This is alcohol use, tobacco use, frequency of gambling, negative financial impacts, family discord, loss of values, neglect of children, allowance for alcohol, use on the Navajo reservation. And they also mentioned positive aspects, which were like creation of jobs and profit maybe.
From my own experience, what I found working with Western and Navajo psychology was that sometimes complaints made to Western physicians, like Western medical doctors, they don't always listen to their patients. And so in this particular case, this woman went to a doctor and told them, you know, she was having feelings of aggression, you know, that she, you know, wanted to address that. And the doctor told her, well, we'll just wait on that until, you know, something happens. Fast forward years, about a year, she had an incident at school to where just aggression was displayed. And she was rude and hostile to people, and not just, you know, at school, it was happening all over the place. After this incident occurred, she realized then that it was important for her and for the people around her that she, you know, seek some type of treatment. And because she already knew of what was going to happen with the Western physician, she decided to go to Navajo medicine, which was actually a woman. So my research question was, do Navajo women prefer to use Western psychology or Navajo psychology when treating female aggression, or both? I hypothesized that Navajo women prefer to use both. You know, that Western psychology and Navajo psychology provided both types of treatment. The methods used for this study was a mixed methods descriptive research, which was guided by Indigenous Research Methodologies, where we used Sahnagai-Bekehajon, Nisahates, Nahataf, Ina, and Sihasen were used to design the methods for recruitment, as well as talk about specific details on methods, and to conduct the analysis and dissemination of the information.